The Quinn Larson Quests. Book 2. Compulsion. Chapter 1. It was only 8 a.m., but I had been talking to Lionel for hours. He'd learned a lot since we started this apprenticeship, but today it was almost impossible for him to concentrate, and I was hanging on to my last nerve. I ran my fingers gently across the ingredients laid out on the bench, testing them. The waxiness of the rind told me the lemon zest was still potent. The charcoal crumbled properly in my fingers, and when I pressed on the dried thyme, the aroma filled my senses. It wasn't the ingredients. Try it again. Start with the lemon rind. I'm so sorry, Quinn. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's a storm coming. But then, maybe it's me. He had a point about the storm, but not about himself. It didn't make any sense that this little spell would trip him up. Can you cleanse the spirits from the room? Maybe. I didn't like the tone of his voice. It was way too uncertain. I suspected he was telling me what he thought I wanted to know. Not for the first time, I wished I still had my sight. Well, I could still do some things. You're tired, and it's been too long since I cast a spell. Let me do it. I gave him a list of the ingredients I needed and asked him to sit on the corner of the couch so I knew where he was. I touched the first item, rosemary. I gave it a rub to release the smell. It seemed to clean the room by itself. Then I swirled the vinegar in the saucer. I felt the rest of the ingredients. Talc, blotting paper, and sandalwood incense. I moved around the space to get my bearings. Cleansing didn't require much movement, but I would wreck it if I tripped mid-spell. I gained some skill in living blind, but I had been careful not to push the envelope too much. Satisfied that the space was clear of obstructions, I went back to the table. Spirits attending this room, hear my words. I crushed the rosemary. Remember the way home. I swirled the vinegar, then dripped some onto the floor. Clear the air. I sprinkled talc. Hide in the powder if you must until we release you. I used the blotting paper to soak up the remaining vinegar. Write in this dampness if you have a message. And finally, I lit the incense. I ask you to leave. There was a sudden rush of air, and I felt the room lighten. Is it clear? Lionel called from across the room. I need you to check the blotting paper, see if there's a message. I heard his footsteps come closer. There is one. That was a surprise. I hadn't had a spirit message for a long time. Okay, tell me what it says. We need you. It is important. Great. Couldn't be more cryptic. Is there anything about the writing that might help us figure out who sent it? It's in red, but not blood. It's in block printing, and it has a seal at the bottom, a bunch of flowers. Crap. Fairies again. I don't know why they seem to think I'm their personal problem solver. I guess we'll find out the details from the fairies directly. I wonder why they thought they needed to do it that way. Maybe they didn't think we would believe it was important if it came directly from them. Should we go find out? No, they'll find us. Now the room is clear. Try the spell again. Okay, but wouldn't it be easier to just use the stove to boil the water for tea? I laughed. Yes, but you need the practice, and it's relatively benign. Try again. Lionel finally managed to boil water with magic, and we steeped tea and headed upstairs for lunch. We got to the top of the stairs, and I bumped into Lionel's back, a thing that had been happening fairly often. What now? It's Princess Elizabeth. He moved again so I could get into the room. I've been waiting, wizard. Why have you blocked me from the workroom? I need to speak with you. I heard a note of imperiousness in her voice that reminded me a little of Feener. I knew she'd had 3 children in the months since she was released from my status spell, so I shouldn't have expected her to be the weak fairy I'd saved from starvation. I said, We were working, and I didn't want to be disturbed. Did you send a spirit to leave me a message? No, I do not converse with spirits. They are unreliable. You are looking very well, Princess. Lionel broke into the conversation, and I was glad of it. We were on the verge of a useless bickering session. Thank you, Lionel. Her voice took on a purring tone. It is the children. They are good for the figure. I felt around till I found a stool. Pulling it out, I hitched my hip onto the seat and waited while the two exchanged pleasantries. Lionel put the kettle on to make more tea, and he offered Princess some honey. When we were all settled in, I decided it was time to get to the bottom of the problem she was going to drop in my lap. Okay, Princess. We have had a spirit message, and you obviously have something you need from me. Get it over with. Very well. Someone is stealing from us. I heard something in her voice that wasn't so arrogant, a little gasp between stealing and us. What's being stolen? Among other things, our treasure is disappearing. I heard her rough tongue delicately lap at some honey. Just the rose fairies? No, we thought so at first, but it seems every tribe is losing a little treasure here and there. I heard Lionel shift across from me and wondered what he was trying to communicate. How long has this been going on? We noticed it 3 weeks ago. I tried to hear a clue in her voice, but there was nothing. For someone who needed my help, she was stingy with the information. I tried to send out my senses to get a read on her. I felt moisture around her. That was unusual. I didn't think she was wet, but she might be crying. Maybe that's what Lionel was trying to say. And what was the, among other things, Princess? Before I tell you, let us talk about this favor between us. Ah, the favor. I guessed she wanted to make sure she didn't build up too much debt to me. Sure. What would you like to say? I am happy to call us even on favors if you will find out who is the thief. I'm not sure I understand. Are you saying you will forgive a favor if I do this one? Yes, I know it is generous, but I am feeling generous. Princess, what favor do I owe you? I saved her life and I solved their breeding problem. And somehow I owed her? I forgave you for placing me in stasis. But Quinn saved your life, Lionel sputtered. I had determined I was not worthy of saving. I did not agree to owe you for my life. I would have laughed if it didn't involve me helping her again. And what about the babies? I solved that problem. Would you not agree we are even now? She sighed, and I heard a hitch in her breath. She was crying. Are you expecting me to be in your debt, Quinn? Do I have to promise you a favor to get help? I did not think you so mercenary. Nice. Fairies aren't the best negotiators I've ever known, but they aren't shy when it comes to getting a deal. When it comes down to it, they simply prefer to ignore any facts that weren't to their advantage. Princess, are you really going to play this game with me? You're clearly upset. I can hear your tears. You haven't told me the whole problem. I think that is because you don't trust me. Whatever the truth is, you must tell me. I waited for her to speak. Lionel broke the silence. Please, Princess, tell us what you want so we can help. That boy needed serious training in negotiation skills. I turned to his voice and mouthed "shut up" at him, hoping I wasn't talking through Princess. Quinn Larson, we are not sure if this other thing is stolen or if they are simply disappearing. Tell me what is going on. I folded my arms and threw a stern look over to where I thought Lionel was sitting. She sighed again. I waited. Lionel shifted in his seat but didn't speak. At least now I knew where he was. I heard her lapping the honey again. She sighed. Very well. Along with our treasure, babies are disappearing. Only a few here and there. That is the first thing you should have said. Aside from the obvious, why would someone want to take your treasure? And why do you think they may not be stealing the babies who are disappearing?